Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So I've gotten a lot of requests and questions recently about becoming a wedding planner and what that process was like for me and how I recommend people get into the industry. So I figured I would do a video all about kind of how I got started and everything, all the steps that I took and how I even got to the place where I am now. So I did a video on like what you should know if you're thinking about becoming a wedding planner, and I'll link that above here, but I didn't talk too much in detail about what the process was like for me and what I did specifically. So I'm just gonna sit here and chat to you about what this whole journey has been like for me. So for starters, people ask a lot if this is what I studied in college, if this is what I intended to do as a career from the start, and the answer is no, definitely not. And I say that although I did always have like the back of my mind this dream that, oh, being a wedding planner would be so fun. I remember telling my parents when I was, I don't know how old I was, maybe middle school, maybe like elementary school, and I think I had seen a movie or show or something where the woman was a wedding planner, and I was like, I'm gonna do that when I retire. That's gonna be my retirement job. Not that I even knew what that meant at the time, but I remember saying that and thinking that it would be a really fun job. But no, I never thought that this would be my full-on career, especially at this point in my life. And I went to school for graphic design and print journalism. I studied communications and public relations, and I lived in Seattle right after I graduated, and I realized that the jobs that I was qualified for that were within my degree, were what I studied to go, have a career in, I didn't have the passion that I thought that I did for it. And so I did that for a little while, and then I moved back to Montana and was trying to figure out, what I really wanted to do with my life and what would make me happy. And it was kind of hard because my whole life, my whole college, high school, junior high life, I thought that that's what I was going to do for a living, and that's what I thought I was passionate about. And then, I don't know, the gears kind of switched for me after I graduated, and at that time, a lot of my girlfriends were getting married or getting engaged, and I kind of found myself helping them plan a lot. And it was actually my boyfriend at the time's mom who sent me a link to this wedding planning course and said, I think you'd be really great at this. And that kind of what initially sparked my interest, and thought, maybe I could do something like this. And I didn't really even realize that could be a career at the time. And so I did some research. I really looked into it. I took the course. This was, 8 years ago. So I don't remember the name of the course or if it even exists, but I took a wedding planning course, got certified, and found myself just planning and helping plan all of the weddings that I could. So I was the maid of honor in one of my best friend's wedding right around that time, and so I did a lot of the planning for her because they lived in a different state, and that gave me a ton of experience. It got me a lot of networks in the area. And even before that, I'll backtrack here a little bit. When I was in college, I nannied for a woman who was an event planner, and again, at the time, that wasn't even on my radar, but my senior year of college, she ended up needing some help on a couple of events and asked me to step in and help her. And I realized that was something that I really enjoyed doing. I liked the kind of hustle of working in events and constantly being busy and constantly having a million things to take care of and people to talk to and touch base with and coordinate and all of that. I really, really thrived and really liked it. And at the time, I didn't really think much of it as far as long-term career, but it was something that I knew that I enjoyed. So then flash forward a couple years, and now I'm doing this for all of my friends, and I'm like, okay, I'm good at this. How can I make this my career? And really, it just sort of happened. I know that's not helpful for a lot of people, because that's like my answer a lot of the times is when people ask how this happened, it just sort of, I don't want to say it fell into my lap, because I did work for it and I did spend some time struggling to get there. But as far as me becoming a wedding planner, it wasn't something that I ever really planned for or dreamed about. And then it was like, once it became this idea, that's all I wanted to do. And so I spent a long time really focusing on my networks. I started my business in Bozeman, Montana, which I currently live in Missoula. And so I started my business there. I was waitressing still. I worked a ton of hours at a restaurant to kind of still pay my bills and everything while trying to start this new business. And I would go around and give my business cards to wedding industry professionals in the area. And it was actually this group that was a group for female entrepreneurs that would meet. I can't remember how often we met. It wasn't monthly, it was a handful of times. And there was a woman that led that group who kind of became a mentor to me. And we would go and get dinner a couple of times, and she told me, you need to do styled shoots. That's what you need to do to get some experience and get some networks. And at the time I was like, what in the heck is a styled shoot? I had no idea. And for those of you that may not know what a styled shoot is, it is basically creating a mini wedding so that you have something to not only have a portfolio and to be able to show some work, like if you're trying to book clients, you want to be able to show them work that you've done previously. And so a styled shoot is great for that, but it's also great to network and to meet other vendors in the area. So basically you get a team together to create a fake wedding. And so you get a wedding dress, you get rentals and decor, you get flowers and a photographer, and for myself I was the coordinator, so it's like a matter of getting everybody together and bringing everyone together and planning all the details so that you can pull off this styled shoot, and then everybody is able to use those photos for their portfolio. So typically you can get vendors to provide their services for free. Sometimes there are costs that are associated with it, but they're all marketing expenses. So I did a styled shoot. I met a lot of great people from that, and in fact, Sue with the Wild Bloom, give you a little shout out here. She actually started around the same time I did, and she provided the florals for my very first styled shoot, and now she is an amazing florist in Bozeman. So if anyone's getting married there, absolutely look up Wild Bloom. She is fantastic, and it's just really great to be able to see kind of the starting point and know that where we both started and where we've become. So it's a great opportunity to be able to network, and networking is huge, especially when you're first starting out. I still work a lot towards networking at this point in my career. A lot of my business actually comes from vendor referrals. So the more you work with different vendors, the more you get to know them and you're comfortable working with one another, and you're going to be recommended by them to clients of theirs and vice versa. There's a handful of people that I absolutely love working with, and I will recommend them to all of my clients. So that's kind of how it all started for me, and it was a struggle for a while. I will be completely honest. I think a lot of people hear wedding planner and they think that it's this pretty glamorous job, and while there are a lot of really glamorous and fun and beautiful aspects to it, it's very difficult. And it's very difficult when you're starting, and it's a lot of long hours. It's a lot of, I don't want to say failure, because nothing in my eyes is a failure. It's just a lot of people saying no until you figure out what works for you. Figuring out pricing is probably one of the more difficult aspects of the job, and that's something that it took me a long time to figure out, like where I stood on the whole pricing scale and how to even quote people, and that's a topic for a whole nother video that we can talk about later on. But figuring out a pricing structure early on and sticking to that is also key. So for myself, I have a day of package, and that's really the only package that I provide. So I have like a partial planning package, but there isn't really a specific amount of things that are included in that because it depends on the couple. So what I'll do is I will kind of have that initial consultation with a couple, figure out what their needs are. I send them a checklist so that they can tell me, okay, this is what we for sure need help with. And then I'm able to build out kind of a custom quote for them based on what they're needing. And same for full service. But I try to really tailor what my couple needs and create a package custom to them rather than trying to fit them in some box that I have already created. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what do I recommend to somebody who is just starting to think about the wedding planning process and like the next steps for them? And like I mentioned before, styled shoots, getting experience. If there's a wedding planner that you can shadow, that you can assist with for a wedding season, that would be the number one thing that I would recommend, is just get experience. Don't try and just start a business on your own or start wedding planning, even if you've already planned your own wedding. Like, sure, you've been through the wedding planning process, but it's a lot different to be on the other end of it and gaining experience from somebody that is established, that has been doing it for a while, is going to be extremely beneficial for you, not only for you to get the experience of being at weddings, but also to see how other professionals work and how they manage their jobs and how they operate. It's going to give you a lot of good insight into how you might want to form your business in the future. So number one, absolutely get experience. Number two, online education. There are plenty of wedding planning courses online. There are also plenty of YouTube videos online. Tons of information resources out there for you, and just absorb all of the education that you possibly can. Do that early on, but also don't ever stop. I constantly am trying to find new education, constantly trying to learn more, constantly trying to be better, and that's something that I don't anticipate will change anytime soon. So use those resources that are available to you and just soak up all of the information that you possibly can. The third thing that I always tell people is don't quit your day job. Don't jump into it too quickly. Don't jump in before you're ready, and make sure that you are building a network, make sure that you are getting a couple clients under your belt before you try and take the leap from part-time to full-time. I've gone through this process a couple times because, like I mentioned, I started my business in Bozeman and then I moved to Missoula. And so when I first moved to Missoula, I felt pretty defeated, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to even continue to do this because I had a whole new network. I had a whole brand new place that I didn't really know anybody. And it took me a while to have the confidence to continue to do this and to do it all over again, because essentially I did have to do it all over again. I had to start over, and all the networks that I had in Bozeman weren't really going to do me any favors here in Missoula. So it was difficult for a while. And again, I waitressed. I worked a couple other gig jobs on the side, and it took me probably a good 3-4 months before I actually decided, okay, these things aren't fulfilling me. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to just suck it up. I'm going to have the confidence to go out there and figure out how to do this all over again. And I did. And it's really just a matter of introducing yourself, putting yourself out there, attending networking events, look up wedding associations, and just really try and introduce yourself to as many people as you possibly can, and be willing to be available to them and to help them as much as you want them to help you. So networking is huge, and like I said, I always had other jobs, and so it took me, I think it was about 3 years after I moved to Missoula that I finally quit my other jobs and was able to do this full time. And even then, that was too soon, to be honest. I struggled a lot in the beginning, and the last thing that you want is to have to say yes to clients just because you see the dollar signs and you need to pay your bills. And so for me, I want to be able to accept clients and take on work because we're a good fit, and because this is going to be a great partnership, it's going to be a great wedding for me, and I'm going to be a good fit for them, not just because they're going to be providing me with rent for the month. So to be able to be in a place where you're not completely relying on booking weddings or just having to say yes to everything that comes your way is going to also set you up for success. Another thing that can be helpful are wedding fairs and expos, and what this is basically a big fair. So if you ever went to a job fair in high school or anything like that where there's different booths set up in a space, wedding fairs are the same. So they take place at a venue, and there's different booths set up with tons of different wedding vendors, and newly engaged couples will attend the wedding fair and they'll walk around, and this is how they find people that are in the wedding industry and what they can provide them and give them. You hand out some marketing material, your business cards. You can chat one-on-one with couples that will come right to your booth and be able to kind of let them know what you can provide, and then hopefully you have a conversation again in the future. Now, for myself, I don't attend wedding fairs very much anymore. I find that they're really great when you're first starting, not only to get your name out there to potential clients, but also for other wedding vendors. This is one of the greatest places that you can network because you're in the same building as potentially hundreds of other wedding vendors. And so to be able to walk around, give your card out to other people, introduce yourself to other wedding vendors, and be able to create that network is really beneficial at a wedding fair. So really, that's kind of how I got to where I am right now. It wasn't really a premeditated situation, and it was something that once I realized I was good at it, I just did everything that I could to be successful at it and to make sure that it was something I could do for a living, and it absolutely was not easy. It still is not easy. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of long hours, it's a lot of making yourself available to people basically 24/7 and having a lot of conversations with highly stressed and emotional people. And I think if you're somebody that has a pretty calm demeanor and disposition, then this is a very a good avenue for you to go down. I find that it takes a lot for me to be stressed, and I think that's why I do well in this industry, because it's not for the faint of heart. So there's my warning for you. If you are somebody that gets stressed out easily or doesn't like to be multitasking or doing a lot of things at once, that is 100% the name of the game when it comes to wedding planning. So keep that in mind. If you're somebody that is thinking about becoming a wedding planner, feel free to reach out with some questions. If you follow me on Instagram, I occasionally will do Q&As on there as well. So give me a follow. It's at emilysummerstudios, and hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we will see you next week.